Good afternoon, and welcome to the City Club of Cleveland, where for 98 years we have encouraged and promoted free speech and civil discourse. My name is Jan Roller, and I am president of the club. In yesterday's Plain Dealer, we read that the Cuyahoga County Land Bank received $400,000 in federal grants to assess environmental sites for risks and $400,000 in federal grants to assess contaminated sites for environmental risks and potential redevelopment. The dollars are among nearly $80 million that the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency is giving to communities around the country to assess, clean up, and redevelop brownfield sites. The Cuyahoga County's Land Bank was formally launched a year ago, and the new nonprofit is the first of its kind in Ohio. Today, we will hear from Jim Rokakis, Cuyahoga County's treasurer and the leader who persuaded the Ohio legislature to authorize this exciting and important effort. According to the EPA, Cuyahoga County has more than 350 known brownfield sites. Most are in Cleveland and the inner ring suburbs. It is the hope of many that the Land Bank will turn Cleveland into the nation's biggest urban laboratory on how a declining industrial city can downsize gracefully and prepare to rebound into the future. The Land Bank acquires vacant and abandoned tax-delinquent property and markets those properties to individuals, developers, and nonprofit organizations for redevelopment. Treasurer Rokakis has been bombarded with ideas about how to use the Land Bank property, from a businessman who wants to build a winery in the Huff area of Cleveland to neighborhood activists who envision parks and trails and community gardens. It is felt that the Land Bank is a key piece in realizing that this is the time for some of the most significant urban planning in 100 years. And we are very lucky to have Treasurer Rokakis at the forefront of this effort. At a time when other county office holders have brought unwelcome attention to our county government, Jim Rokakis has been recognized for his efforts in strengthening our neighborhoods and community. In 2007, for instance, he received the Leadership in Social Justice Award from Greater Cleveland Community Shares, and he was named the County Leader of the Year by the American City and County magazine. And in 2008, he received the Governor's Award for Excellence in Affordable Housing. At 22, Mr. Rokakis was elected the youngest member of Cleveland City Council. Yes, even younger than Dennis Kucinich. And he served there for 19 years and took office as our county treasurer in 1997. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome County Treasurer Jim Rokakis.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dan, for your leadership here and throughout Northeast Ohio. I'm here today to announce my candidacy for the, wrong one. Sorry. You know, old habits die hard. In reality, I am serving out my term as what will be Cuyahoga County's last elected treasurer and also serving as chairman of the Cuyahoga County Land Bank. And I'm focusing most of my efforts in these last remaining months in office on the biggest crisis to really affect this county really since the Great Depression. I appreciate the opportunity the City Club has given me to appear in a number of occasions and also to speak about the Land Bank's accomplishments as we approach the one-year anniversary. One of the privileges of being given this podium is being able to take a slight diversion before I discuss the main topic. And I want to take a minute just to discuss the topic that you alluded to, Jan. That's the issue that dominates the headlines, and I'm speaking of the county corruption probe. Like the rest of you, I am both sick of hearing about it and disgusted by the constant parade of perpetrators in federal court pleading to crimes against taxpayers. PO1, PO2, PO3, PO4. You haven't read about me, I'm PO'd. And if you want to put a numerical, that's PO squared. And I've said this before, not that they're going to listen, but I want to say it again, and I'll say it again publicly, both to the Commissioner, Jimmy DeMora, and the County Auditor, Frank Russo, and that is that they really need to step down. I had a debate with a couple of people last night about why I would even mention this. And I suppose it's because so few people have said it. I don't know if you want to offend people, if it's because of party affiliation. They need to step down. They need to do it for their families who are subjected to this humiliating news on a regular basis. They need to do it for the people of Cuyahoga County who are tired, just as I am and just as you are. Need to do it for people who need services from the county, who are relying on the issue 15 to pass next month. And they need to do it on behalf of the thousands of county workers who come to work every day and do a good job and who have been diminished and feel tarnished by this. So do it for them. But having said that, and knowing that they're probably not going to do that, my next request is then to the federal authorities who have been involved with this now for a number of years, and that is to ask them to wrap it up. We understand you have to be careful not to make mistakes, that you have to follow the law carefully, you have to move cautiously. But the county is paralyzed by this as we move to a new form of government. It's especially difficult. It's impacting the work of the county, and I would hope that they bring it to conclusion. That's my digression. Let me go back to my topic of foreclosures and how the land bank is addressing it. A recent line in a newspaper editorial said that I was rarely the bearer of good news, and I understand why they said that. I think I've got a lot of good news, but I think what I'm offering today is both some good news and some sobering news. But I've always believed that the public wants the truth, all of it, because if we know what we're really up against, it'll help us to devise realistic solutions and not the sugar-coated quick fixes that I think cause the public to lose faith in us. So if that means I'm a bearer of bad news, then guilty as charged. You all know, and I've, again, a broken record on this, we've been at ground zero of the foreclosure crisis since 2000. You hear the use of the phrase endless war to describe what we've been going through in Iraq and Afghanistan. Iraq, we've been engaged since 2000, Afghanistan since 2000, Iraq since 2003. We've been engaged in this foreclosure battle even longer, just to give you some perspective. From 2000 to 2006, there were 62,000 foreclosures filed in Cuyahoga County, and we were first in the country during that really 7-year period, 00 through 06. After the bubble burst in late 2006, foreclosures moved to the south, to states like Florida, to the west, states like Nevada and California, Arizona. But our numbers did not lessen. I mean, it may be worse in those communities. In fact, our numbers got worse. Over 42,000 foreclosures have been filed in the last 3 years, an average of almost 14,000 per year, as opposed to less than 10,000 over the prior 7 years. In the future, I have to tell you, looks every bit as disappointing and bleak. Paul Bellamy, who is sitting here, Paul, if you want to raise your hand, he is the very successful director of our Cuyahoga County Foreclosure Prevention Plan, sitting across from Mark Wiseman, who was the first director of the program. Paul just prepared a chart that we presented to the U.S. Congress that shows the explosion of what we call zombie loans in Ohio and Cuyahoga County. Zombie loans are loans, as we use this term in the office, that are loans that are over 90 days late, but that the banks are failing to foreclose upon. In the first quarter of 2007, there were about 22,000 of these loans that were later than 90 days that banks had not yet foreclosed upon. By the fourth quarter of 2009, the number of loans that fell in that category had skyrocketed to almost 72,000 loans. 72,000 loans in Ohio, a significant percentage in this community, 90 days late or longer, that if foreclosed upon, would make the dismal foreclosure picture even more dismal. I've complained in this forum in the past about the inadequacy of the response from the Bush administration, but just to prove that I'm not a partisan, I must report that the response from the Obama administration, particularly the HAMP program, hasn't worked either, and has been especially ineffective in Ohio, where only 15.7% of seriously delinquent loans were modified under this program. Only 3 states, Kentucky, Indiana, and Oklahoma, have fared worse than Ohio under the Obama plan. Now, you have to ask the question, well, what does work? There must be something that can help us in this battle. And what works is what we've talked about before here. It's face-to-face counseling that's used in our foreclosure prevention program campaign that has proved to be the best way to fight foreclosures. Amazingly, the funding stream that funded many of those counselors was actually cut by the administration in 2010. And while we've been assured that money will be replaced in 2011, we are scrambling today to make up the difference.